kilowatt hours, kilowatts, and demand in your electric rate plan and bill. If you look closely at your electric bill, you'll see the letters KWH. KWH stands for kilowatt hour or kilowatt hours. You are charged for the amount of kilowatt hours that you consume each month. You may also see KW and the term demand on your bill. KW is the abbreviation for kilowatt or kilowatts. Notice that kilowatt here does not include the word hour. You may be charged for a number of kilowatts as part of a demand fee. Since kilowatts and kilowatt hours are easy to confuse, I'll use symbols to emphasize which one I'm talking about. I'll use this bolt to represent kilowatts. I created this symbol to represent kilowatt hours. And I also created this symbol here to represent demand. What are kilowatt hours and kilowatts? What is demand? And where do the charges for kilowatt hours and kilowatts come from? Many of us have only a vague idea of what these utility terms mean, but since you pay for kilowatt hours, and in some cases kilowatts, it's worth understanding how they relate to your daily life and to your electric service. Kilowatt hour and kilowatt are units used by the utility to measure how much electricity you consume and how much of an impact you have on the utility system. And the charges on your bill are based on the prices set in your electric rate plan. I'm Maria Maher. This video is part of my series on electric service and the traditional utility in the United States. The series is meant to guide you through electric service and rate plans offered by a traditional electric utility. But the information in this video will apply to both traditional and deregulated electric utilities. I'll focus here on what kilowatt hours, kilowatts, and demand mean, not as a technical discussion, but in a way that relates to your appliances. By the end of this video, you'll have a better understanding of how these terms relate to your electricity use, your rate plan, and your bill. In my first video, Your Electric Rate Plan and Bill, I introduced residential electric rate plans and showed how your electric service and your rate plan work together to create your bill. In that video, I also showed how electricity flows from a traditional utility to your home. As electricity flows to your home, it passes through a meter. Your meter is important. The meter on your home may be a modern digital meter or an older analog meter. Either kind of meter can measure and record electricity consumption as kilowatt hours, but a digital meter can also track and record your demand in kilowatts. I'll mention your meter again as I go through the video. Now let's look at kilowatt hours, kilowatts, and demand. I'll start with kilowatts because kilowatts are at the center of both kilowatt hours and demand. And the best way to understand how kilowatts apply to your daily life is to look at an appliance. Each appliance requires a certain amount of power to operate. A kilowatt is a unit of power, or for our purposes here, the flow of electricity per second. Again, kilowatt is shortened to kW, and 1 kilowatt is equal to 1,000 watts. Electricity is basically instantaneous. When you turn on an appliance, electricity flows from the utility through your meter into your home and to your appliance, in this example to the space heater. This flow of electricity is measured in kilowatts, or for less powerful appliances, as watts. Each appliance has a particular flow of watts or kilowatts that it requires. Here are two examples. This hairdryer requires 1.5 kilowatts to operate. This light bulb requires 100 watts to operate. An appliance may have a very small label on it that lists a number of watts or kilowatts. The number tells you how much power that appliance requires to operate, but it does not tell you how much electricity that appliance consumed on any particular day. An appliance consumes electricity when it operates for a period of time. To know how much electricity an appliance consumed, you have to know both how many watts or kilowatts it requires to operate and how long that appliance operated. And that brings us to the kilowatt hour. As a reminder, on your electric bill, you pay a charge for the amount of electricity you consumed, and your consumption is in kilowatt hours. A kilowatt hour is directly related to kilowatt, but they are not the same. Let's look at how we get from kilowatt to kilowatt hour. A kilowatt hour is a unit of electricity consumed. Again, kilowatt hour is shortened to kWh. The word hour in kilowatt hour is important. It tells you that we are talking about electricity consumed over time. Here's the definition of a kilowatt hour. 1 kilowatt of electricity used for 1 hour equals 1 kilowatt hour. Now let's look at how this relates to an appliance. As I mentioned earlier, each appliance has a particular flow of watts or kilowatts that it needs to operate at all. This space heater requires 1,000 watts or 1 kilowatt to operate. Let's say that it ran for 3 hours. The heater's consumption is based on the kilowatts it requires to run multiplied by the length of time it operated. The result is in kilowatt hours. Our 1 kilowatt space heater ran for 3 hours, so it consumed 3 kilowatt hours. Remember, a unit of electricity consumed is a kilowatt hour. You consume kilowatt hours little by little, appliance by appliance, over the month. But the meter on your home tracks your consumption from the whole house or apartment. The meter records and totals how many kilowatt hours you consumed over the month. And in some cases, the meter also records when you consumed those kilowatt hours. Kilowatt hours are an important part of your rate plan and your bill. The price per kilowatt hour may or may not be visible directly on your electric bill. That depends on the bill format your utility uses. But the price per kilowatt hour is visible in your electric rate plan in the energy charge section. I'll cover the energy charge and the rate plan in upcoming videos. Now let's look at the term demand. Not everyone has demand included as a cost in their rate plan and on their bill, but for those who do, it's important to understand. What is demand? Demand is a term the utility uses to describe your impact on its system. Your demand is the amount of power you need from the utility at any given moment. The utility can also use the word demand to describe the collective impact of all of its customers. So I want to emphasize that in this video, I use the word demand to mean your demand as an individual customer. Whenever you use electricity, you create demand on the utility's system. Demand is immediate and it is measured in kilowatts. Notice there is no hour. Demand is in kilowatts. So let's return to kilowatts, but rather than focus on a single appliance, I'll look at a home. In this example, I'll show a home with a digital meter. A digital meter is able to measure and record demand in kilowatts. An older analog meter typically does not record demand. Your electricity use still creates demand, but most analog meters will not record it. Now let's look at the example. As we saw earlier, when you turn on an appliance, electricity flows instantly from the utility through your meter into your home and to that appliance. This flow of electricity is measured in kilowatts. And the flow of kilowatts through your meter matches the kilowatts that the appliances in your home are using at that moment. In this example, the 1 kilowatt space heater is the only appliance on. So the electricity flowing through the meter and into your home is 1 kilowatt. When you turn on more appliances, more electricity, more kilowatts flow through your meter to run those appliances all at the same time. The utility refers to the number of kilowatts that you draw from its system all at once as your demand. Let's look at the same example but with numbers. The space heater, washing machine, and clothes dryer need a total of 4 kilowatts. Altogether, they put 4 kilowatts of demand on the utility system. That's the number of kilowatts flowing through your meter to operate those appliances. If you turn off the washing machine, your demand drops by 1 kilowatt. Your demand is now 3 kilowatts. So, your demand on the utility system at any given moment has a number. That number is the total number of kilowatts that are flowing through your meter at that moment to operate the appliances that you have on. So, as you turn your appliances on and off during the day, your demand number rises and falls. The more appliances you run all at once and the more powerful those appliances, the higher your demand on the utility system. The fewer appliances you run all at once, the lower your demand. Demand is instantaneous, but as a practical matter, the utility uses your digital meter to track and then average your demand over short time periods. The time periods used for averaging might be 15 minutes long or 30 minutes or 1 hour. The meter records your demand as these short averages through the day, and typically the meter tracks your highest demand each day too. So your demand is a number in kilowatts that changes throughout the day. A digital meter can record your demand in kilowatts as well as your consumption in kilowatt hours. Some utilities offer a rate plan with a demand charge. The demand charge relies upon the data from a digital meter. The demand charge section of a rate plan includes a price per kilowatt and rules. I'll cover the demand charge and the rate plan in upcoming videos. And that's the overview of kilowatt hours, kilowatts, and demand. To recap, a kilowatt is a unit of power. Each of your appliances requires a certain number of kilowatts or watts to operate at all. Kilowatt hours are kilowatts used over time. When your appliances operate, they are consuming kilowatt hours. The utility charges a price per kilowatt hour. That price is listed in the energy charge section of your rate plan. On your bill, you pay for the kilowatt hours that you have consumed. You create demand on the utility system whenever you use electricity. Demand is measured in kilowatts. Tracking and recording demand typically requires a digital meter. Some utilities offer rate plans that include a demand charge, which includes a price per kilowatt and rules. That's it. You now have a working understanding of kilowatt hours, kilowatts, and demand as they apply to your electricity use. And you are ready to look at costs in your electric rate plan. I'm Maria Maher, and this was Kilowatt Hours, Kilowatts, and Demand, your electric rate plan and bill. Please join me for videos on costs in your electric rate plan and on common types of electric rate plans under a traditional utility. You can find me at Maria Maher Utilities on YouTube, where I present utility matters in a way that relates to your life. See you there.